Boxing Day 2014. A young man walks into a police station.
Hey, my name's Ross Taggart. My mum's missing.
Carol Taggart has been missing for 3 days. Her family are desperately worried, apart from her son, Ross.
At this point, Ross was still going out clubbing and he was still hitting the town, using her credit card, things like that. Odd things that you wouldn't do when I'm at home crying my eyes out.
Then police discover Carol's body, leaving her daughter devastated.
And then everything goes a blur.
Lorraine Taggart and Stephen Bristow get married. And for the mother of the bride, Carol Taggart, with all the family around her, it's a perfect day.
She was there right from the beginning and she got ready first. She got her hair done, then her makeup done. Got this, it was a beautiful light blue suit and she was so excited to wear it. She went on about it for months. Sitting bubbling and crying, so proud, wanting everything to be perfect. Everything just had to be perfect, and she just sat like a Cheshire cat all day. My dad walked me down the aisle, but supposedly we ran down the aisle because I missed Stephen, so it was my daddy that walked me down the aisle.
She was absolutely gleaming. It was just a really good day.
Lorraine's big brother Ross is at the wedding too. Ross is 4 years older than Lorraine. Growing up, he always looked out for his little sister.
Me and Ross were very close growing up. He was always there or thereabout, and a supportive brother. Just a family, a normal family. I'm a daddy's girl through and through. Tell my dad everything, he knows everything. My mum had Ross. He was a mummy's boy. I think that's the standard way of any family. Boy's mummy's boy and the little girl's the daddy's girl, so yeah.
Ross is Carol's son from a previous relationship, but Sean brings him up as if he were his own.
Ross was my son, he called me dad. It grew up, that was just how it was, and everybody sort of accepted the fact.
It's never been, don't call my dad dad. It was never, ever. We've known from the beginning, that's how it was. So it's nothing strange to our family. My dad was his dad.
I was a dad and that was my son, and we did all that father-son stuff, taught him how to go a bike, run along at the back of him when I was taking his stabilisers off, all that kind of stuff.
We were closer than most, so yeah, loved my brother.
Growing up, Lorraine enjoys dancing and performs in pantomimes and children's shows. Her mother Carol and her big brother Ross are always there to support her. Carol and her son share a special closeness.
He was without a doubt our favourite. Yeah, she was, I don't know if overpowering is the right word, but it was just always that wee bit extra for Ross.
In his mother's eyes, Ross can do no wrong.
Ross didn't lie. Ross didn't cheat. She just thought the sun shone out his backside. He was the golden boy.
But in his teenage years, Ross becomes introverted and cut off from the rest of the family.
Ross never said much. He wasn't a man of many words. It was just the look. You just got a look off him and you knew he didn't like it.
You could never get inside his wee psyche. You just didn't know what he was thinking. You could ask him why he did that specific thing, And he would just give this blank look. You would never get any feedback.
And then he would go away and hide in his room.
I found it annoying, to say the least.
Emma Kenny is a psychologist who deals with troubled families and relationships in her clinics.
Ross is his mother's golden boy. It's as simple as that. He has been since the day he was born. And because of this, he knows that he can manipulate her. The behaviour that he's demonstrating to other people seems lazy, unfair. To many degrees, he's ill-treating his mother because he's using her. But to Carol, he needs her. He's her son, he depends on her, he relies on her, and he plays on every single maternal instinct that she has, and he does it eloquently.
He was lazy. Lazy with life, expected it to land on his lap. We were brought up in a beautiful house, beautiful holidays, had beautiful cars, got everything we wanted, so why should he? And that was his outlook, where I wanted to make them proud. He was the opposite.
Watching Lorraine achieve at school, watching Lorraine get jobs and hold down jobs, and then off she went to do her college stuff and her dancing, and she was just a roaring success.
I was always at college and working. He was sitting in his room.
Ross was just a letdown. He was just a letdown. And yet you constantly tried, you constantly pushed him, you constantly gave him opportunities, and he just never ever took up on it.
The thing about Carol is, she sees the best in Ross. She wants to please him. She wants to make him feel that he's her priority. So that means that utilising that knowledge, he can get her to financially look after and protect him, but also, and very, very cleverly, he knows that by exerting that role, he can withdraw her from other family relationships. So he can isolate her.
My mum was like, leave him alone, it's fine, he'll come out of it. And my dad was more, no, it's time he stands on his own 2 feet, he's got to learn to hold down a job. And my mum was, no, 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 he'll be fine. The mummy boy thing really kicked into touch then.
We were arguing constantly, and we were constantly arguing about Ross. We'd been arguing about Ross for a good couple of years on and off, and she was prioritising Ross before me, and she was literally saying to me, Ross comes before you.
And at the age of 19, my mum and dad separated because of Ross and the arguments that he caused in the house.
100%. It's his fault entirely for her and me splitting up.
Sean is heartbroken. Reluctantly, he moves out of the family home. Ross is now effectively the man of the house. Coming up, Lorraine gets a phone call that will change her life.
I looked at my phone and I looked at Stephen and he went, what's wrong? And I said, Ross has phoned me. My stomach started to churn.
Ross Taggart is the apple of his mother's eye.
She just thought the sun shone out his backside. He was the golden boy.
But he can't hold down a job, and his behaviour is driving a wedge between his parents, Carol and Sean Taggart. Eventually, they separate.
And at the age of 19, my mum and dad separated because of Ross and the arguments that he caused in the house.
Sean reluctantly moves out, leaving Carol to look after the 2 children, Ross and Lorraine.
The 3 of us, Ross, myself and my mum, lived together for a good few years together after my mum and dad did separate. He seemed to enjoy that because then he was the man of the house.
Carol is suffering with bouts of depression, and Ross is starting to exploit the influence and hold he has over her.
As we got older, and I would say 18, 19, 20, I started to realise that Ross was a user, I thought Ross was bleeding my mum dry, so to speak. I said, he's going to turn against you, or he's going to use you, and you're going to have nothing left, because I could see what he was doing.
As Ross and his mother become closer, she starts to depend on him more and more.
All I wanted was my mum, and what was best for her. I tried to get her into different facilities. I went to doctor's appointment with her, and it just seemed to get progressively worse. It didn't seem to work. She was just lost, and you could see she was lost.
Lorraine is convinced Ross is preying on his mother's vulnerable state.
It's like you were on the outside looking in, and there was nothing I could do or say to make it better. All I could do was try and make her proud, and that's what I set out to do with my life. But as for them, no, they just seemed to get closer and closer. I thought she was a fool, and I hated to feel that way about my own mum. But she was getting used.
Ross has a series of relationships, but none of them last. Meanwhile, Lorraine leaves home, and finally, Ross has his mother all to himself.
When you look at Ross and his mother's relationship, it feels more like partners. You know, they're going on holiday with each other, they're spending lots of social time together. It's what you'd expect a husband and a wife to be doing, not a mother and a son. And the more time you spend together, the more fused your relationship is, the more the sense of dependency. But unfortunately, whilst Carol was becoming dependent, Ross was merely using her in a manipulative way to make gains.
I was just starting to see Ross as a bad apple. He was just wrong. He wasn't how it should be. It was strange, and I was seeing it as strange, and Lorraine was seeing it as strange. Other people were starting to see it as strange. It was like, there's something up with this boy.
Why would the son hang around the mum so long? But he hung around so long because he was going to get everything that he wanted. And he did. He weaseled his way to get everything.
Ross is starting to exert his control over his mother. Whenever she tries to stand up to him, he becomes angry.
She was frustrated and angry at him, like, please, come on, step up. Willing her child to do good, as any parent would want them to do. He would argue, he started to argue back at my mum, which I didn't like because of his tone. It was just nasty with him. Bossy, if you would like, I'll get my own way kind of thing, which was not nice to watch. But everybody needs to remember I'm the little sister in this, watching my older brother speak to my mum that way.
Even though Sean's been driven out of the family home by Ross, he continues to see Carol. After a while, he wants to move back in. But there's one problem.
She literally said that she'd have to speak to him to almost get his permission to see me openly or for me to come to the house, which set me off on a bit of a rant because, one, who's the parents? Two, who's paying the bills? And three, who the hell does he think he is?
Ross is tightening the hold he has over his mother and isolating her from the rest of the family. Lorraine and her husband Stephen's wedding day is one of the last occasions they'll spend together, happy as a family.
Yeah, it was a good day, and we'd booked a room as well, and Carol and me, we stayed in the room together after the wedding as well, and it was pretty good.
By this stage, Ross's controlling influence over his mother has driven away the rest of the family. Stephen and Lorraine have had a baby boy, Lucas, but Carol is yet to see her grandchild.
As we got older and I stepped back away from the situation to start my own life, they got closer and closer.
In October 2014, Carol treats Ross to a trip to New York to celebrate his 30th birthday. When they get back, she continues to indulge him by buying him Christmas presents.
Just, it was obscene at times, absolutely obscene. And I'm no Mr. Scrooge by any stretch of it, but if you're spending up to or over £1,000 on one child at Christmas, there's something far wrong, especially when I'm not a child or a grown man. It was getting ridiculous what she was spending on him.
Can I take a note of your surname, please?
It's Taggart, Taddart.
First name?
Ross.
Then out of the blue, on December the 23rd, 2014, Ross Taggart calls Dunfermline police to report his mother missing.
Had there been any argument, or?
That's the thing. We had an argument, and I would just hate to think she's, after an argument, just went and done something.
So there had been an argument?
Yeah.
Former Detective Superintendent David Swindle has been face to face with some of the UK's most notorious killers. He knows better than most the mindset of a murderer.
The call was prioritised as a grade 3 high-risk missing person. There was concern for the safety of Carol Taggart. There was a background, depression, medication, and she'd been missing for over 24 hours. There also had been an argument. They searched the house, they look at everything round about Carol Taggart's movements and the report and the person that reported her missing.
Carol's daughter Lorraine hasn't spoken to her brother for some time. She's out shopping with her husband Stephen when she notices a missing call from him.
I looked at my phone and I looked at Stephen and he went, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Ross has phoned me." My stomach started to churn. Stephen said, "It's okay, I'll phone him." So he got his phone and he phoned and he said, "Ross, you phoned Lorraine, what's wrong?" And he said, "Mum's missing." We thought nothing of it. I went on with my day.
Later, Lorraine's starting to worry. She tried to call her mother's mobile, but it's switched off.
I thought maybe she would look at it and go, "Lorraine's phoning me," and answer, no matter where she was. I knew something was wrong. My mum always answered her phone. My mum's phone was next to her hip. It was either in her hand or in her handbag next to her. I couldn't understand why it was off. As the night kind of went on, I got more and more wound up, more upset, thinking everything went through my head. She's attention-seeking, she's ran away. Ross has hit her, and she's went into hiding to protect him. But never did I think what was going to happen was going to happen. Never.
In the days after he reported his mother missing, Ross's movements are tracked by CCTV cameras. In the early hours of Christmas Eve, he's seen walking around the Caravan park where Carol owns a caravan. Then he's spotted withdrawing cash using his mother's card. And later, he's buying drinks at a nightclub.
Then Christmas Eve, it all goes past so fast. You're trying to get excited for Christmas, but we weren't. Couldn't understand why we hadn't heard from her. Why was she doing this? That's what I kept saying. Why is she doing this? Why? Wasn't much at Christmas.
Lorraine is starting to doubt her brother's version of events.
His story was they argued and she walked out her house. It didn't make sense. It's not my mum. It's not what she would have done.
Then, on Christmas Day, they get a call from the police.
We got a phone call to say they had found our car. And I knew at that point then something was wrong.
It was progress in the sense that they'd found it, but the fact that they'd found it and that our bag was in it and our phones and stuff were there, the look in my daughter's face was horrendous.
I just said to my dad, I said, my mum's gone. And he said, it's fine, well, she'll be somewhere trying to protect me. But I knew at that point she was gone.
Coming up, the police make a shocking discovery.
About 8 o'clock in the morning, we got that police knock at the door again.
And I looked at him and I knew something was wrong. His face was white.
Ross Taggart has called the police to report his mother, Carol, missing.
Had there been any argument or?
That's the thing. We had an argument, and I would just hate to think she's, after an argument, just went and done something.
So there had been an argument?
Yeah.
CCTV cameras are capturing Ross's movements. Then on Christmas Day 2012, the police find Carol's car. The family fear the worst.
7 o'clock, we got a phone call to say they had found our car. But I knew at that point she was gone.
Boxing Day, and Ross Taggart walks into Dunfermline Police Station. It's now 3 days since he filed a missing person report.
Hiya. My name's Ross Taggart. My mum's missing. It's already been reported and everything. It's just they found her car last night and I've just not heard anything since. Yeah. I was waiting on a phone call back from the duty sergeant, but that was a couple of hours away, so just to find out. Thanks.
When Ross walks into the police station, what you see is absolutely no emotion. He's almost jovially talking about what's happened. There's no recognition of sadness. And to some degree, he's checking out what's going on. He wants to know what they know. He wants to check out whether they're onto him. And that's the whole point of going to that police station.
After the car had been found, hope faded a bit, and we realised that it might not have a happy ending. I think we'd sort of had that thought in there, but you still cling to hope. I think it's human nature.
I'm at home crying my eyes out, texting people, phoning people, trying to rack my brains.
This is like something you would see on the telly. You sit and watch news programmes of these things, you see family appeals for missing people, and you see this, that, and the next thing on the telly. And here we were right in the middle of it, and I just couldn't understand for the life of me why. I just work as a joiner, I'm nothing special. And I'm in this situation. It was beyond belief.
Sean and Lorraine are beside themselves with grief and anxiety. But Ross seems to be continuing his life as normal.
At this point, Ross was still going out clubbing and things like that. He was still hitting the town, using her credit card, things like that, odd things that you wouldn't do.
He's also been selling items of jewellery belonging to his mother. Ross's behaviour is looking more and more suspicious. He's now at the very centre of the police investigation.
But the more the police asked questions, the more you could kind of read between the lines. They would ask things about Ross's behaviour. Why do you think he's going out clubbing? Was he allowed to use your mum's card and things like that? And they kept asking me, the police, every time they were there, would you think your brother would do anything to your mum? And every time we answered yes.
When the police started to look at Ross Taggart, they were starting to become suspicious. He was spending money using his mum's credit card. He pawned items. He was living the high life. His behaviour was unusual. This was not someone that was concerned for the well-being of his mum, and that was starting to arouse the suspicions of the police.
Then, on the morning of January the 11th, 2015, nearly 3 weeks since Ross first reported his mother missing, the family are about to get the news they've been dreading.
About 8 o'clock in the morning, we got that police knock at the door again. And Stephen flew down the stairs first and opened the door, gives us a shout.
And I looked at him and I knew something was wrong. His face was white. He went into my dad's room and knocked the door and says, "The police are there." And we were kind of used to this, the police always being there. But we knew.
That's when they told us we found the body.
I didn't say anything. I looked at my dad and then Stephen. And I could see they were broken. I just stared at Lucas, my little hero. Then they asked if I would identify her body. And I says, of course, it's my mum. I stood up. I went into the kitchen. I just collapsed in a heap. And I just broke. My dad came and lifted me up, and then we just sobbed in each other's arms. And then everything was a blur. The pain within my body was excruciating.
Carol's body has been found stashed under a caravan, close to the one she owns, and where Ross was seen on Christmas Eve. She has been battered and throttled to death in a vicious attack. Ross Taggart is now the prime suspect.
I thought, you cold-hearted. You've left her outside. It's winter, it's cold. She was alone. I think that's worse. If he had maybe done what he'd done and called the police and said, "I've made a mistake," but he left her for nearly 2 weeks out in the cold.
Because of the extent of her injuries, Lorraine is asked to formally identify her mother by a tattoo on her wrist.
I was there when she got the tattoo and it was really bright. And it was grey. And everybody was looking at me, waiting on an answer. And they said, "You've got to say yes or no." And at that point, I said yes. I got out the room as fast as I could. I remember my dad putting his arms underneath my arms to hold me up as I screamed and sobbed in his arms.
January the 14th, 3 days after the body's found. Ross Taggart is arrested and charged with the murder of his mother.
When they phoned to say he's arrested, he's in custody, relief. At that point, relief. It was like a weight off my shoulders. Why should he get to go about if this is what he had done? trying to get little bits of information. Why would you do this to your mum? To be honest, I emotionally shut down. I didn't really speak about it. I just went through the motions. I was existing, I wasn't living.
Despite being in custody under suspicion of her murder, Ross applies to attend his mother's funeral.
And I said no, but human rights, he was going to be allowed to.
And we literally said to the police, if Ross is attending the funeral, you can deal with the funeral. We will not deal with it and will not attend. It's just wrong on every level. So somebody saw sense, common sense or otherwise, and he wasn't coming at the funeral. So it was rearranged.
And I was 27 years old, organising my mum's funeral. Would she be proud of me? Is she mad at me? Is she disappointed in me? Have I made her proud? It was all going through my head. To know that her son, my brother who I loved, killed her, and she's ended up in a coffin in that state is horrific.
Coming up, Ross goes on trial and the prosecution produce a surprise witness.
I actually turned at my dad and went, "Who is that?" He went, "I don't know."
A few days after Ross Taggart reported his mother missing, the police make a discovery that rocks the family.
After the car had been found, hope faded a bit, and we realised that it might not have a happy ending.
And when they find Carol's body, hidden underneath the caravan, their worst fears are confirmed.
Then they asked if I would identify her body. And I says, of course, it's my mum.
Ross Taggart is charged with the murder of his mother, Carol Taggart, and with perverting the course of justice.
By the time we got to trial, if I'm perfectly honest, I was 110% convinced of his guilt. So it didn't matter what he said. I was never believing it.
For Lorraine, seeing the brother she was once so close to is a painful experience.
I took a deep breath and I went into the courtroom. And there I was, face to face with him. My heart sank. I thought, I ain't walking out this courtroom. I'm going to sit here and make you feel uncomfortable because you've ruined my life.
In court, the severity of Ross's attack on his mother becomes brutally clear. It's hard for the family to take.
He beat her up and he broke her neck. And he choked her that hard that he broke her neck. He didn't just twist her head or anything. He strangled her so violently that he broke her neck. It was a sustained attack. And then he wrapped her up, put her in a boot of a car, transported her to a caravan, and then tried to hide the body.
They found blood in the caravan, so she was obviously in there at some point. We don't know when she was moved, but we do know how she was found and stuff. They showed that. Showed her body on screen, how it went to the morgue, bound like a mummy, and what he had used. I never saw her face, they were very respectful, but I did see her legs and her lower torso.
The case against Ross Taggart was overwhelming. The police looked at his movements in CCTV, internet history, being able to track where he had gone, using his mobile phone. Everything pointed to Ross Taggart.
There was over 188 witnesses for the prosecution, and including Ross, there was 2 witnesses for the defence. It was kind of, why are we having a trial?
But there's yet another shocking revelation to come.
It was kind of like a muffle when the girl walked in, and she was hiding like this. And I was like, actually turned at my dad and went, "Who is that?" And he went, "I don't know."
The witness is a woman Ross had contacted through an internet dating site. She tells the court Ross drove round for casual sex. Unbeknown to her, he had dumped his mother's body just hours earlier.
You could hear everybody gasp when it came out that the postcode was in the sat-nav. So it's clear as day to see that he had drove my mum's car there.
How can you do it? I mean, how can you actually physically go and have sex with somebody hours after you've killed your own mother?
Yeah. How disrespectful. How disgusting. How could you be that low to just think, oh well, I've just killed my mum, I'll just go and sleep with somebody. It's unbearable. It's something I try not to think about.
The reason that Ross went and had casual sex just a few hours after brutally murdering his mother was due to the fact that he was potentially feeling really turned on. He felt a sense of power and dominance and wanted to continue that feeling. And whilst for the average human being that's almost impossible to reconcile in your head, you weren't dealing with a normal human being. Ross is a psychopathic narcissist.
Ross takes to the stand, and despite the overwhelming evidence against him, he sticks to his story that Carol stormed out after an argument.
I could see he was lying. He has this look that he just looks at you like, and there's no emotion, nothing behind his eyes, and that's how he looked. And when he gave evidence in court, that's how he looked.
He had that vacant stare about him, like, this is all happening, but it doesn't matter. And that was clear to me, but maybe not so much to people that don't know him, but it was certainly clear to me that...
Just, there was no remorse from him. There was nothing from him to even piece things together, to even try and get some relief to know that he was sorry. There was nothing.
It takes the jury less than an hour to reach a unanimous guilty verdict. Ross Taggart is sentenced to life and will serve a minimum of 18 years in jail.
And I didn't react, I just sat and I stared at him. I wanted a reaction, I wanted him to say something, and then he stood up and they took him away and he didn't look at anybody, didn't acknowledge anybody, he didn't cry, he didn't, nothing.
Still reeling with emotion, Lorraine gives a statement to the waiting media.
We went out and I just saw this sea of cameras. I took a deep breath and I just read, and I can't even remember what I said. I kept stumbling, I could feel Stephen and my dad's hand on my back.
On behalf of the family, I would like to express my thanks to Police Scotland and to Mr Exploring and the rest of the prosecution team for their endeavours in obtaining a solid conviction. As a family, we will try to move forward. However, even given today's outcome, we shall never get over my mum, Carol's death.
And I just said thank you after I'd said it, and I walked away. And they left me alone. They left me to go home in peace.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it's a relief in the fact that he's locked up. But there's no relief in how you feel about the whole thing. None at all.
18 years for killing your mother's not justice. He'll be out and younger than the age that she was when he killed her. So how's that justice?
I can't look at stuff for a minute. I can't look at photographs for a minute. And the hatred I feel for him is just beyond belief. And there's no an ounce of forgiveness in me. It's his mum he's killed. It's no a random thing, it's not an accident. He's intentionally done this. And the method that he's done it in, and the lengths he went to cover it up after it, is just despicable. I wouldn't wish this in the worst enemy.
A man without a heart is what Ross is. A man with no morals, no respect, and no heart. And I'll never forgive what he's done, ever.
Looking back on her childhood growing up with Ross, Lorraine struggles to come to terms with what he's become.
It feels like my life before this was a lie. How I felt about him, what we'd done together, is a lie. I loved a murderer, and there's no other way to put it. Ross is a murderer, and I loved him.
But what's even more difficult to understand is how anyone could murder the woman who gave them life.
That's who gave birth to you. That's who nurtured you. That's who, when you couldn't walk, lifted you and changed your nappy and everything, absolutely everything. That's who picked you up and kissed it better when you fell. That's who loves you unconditionally.
How can you replace a mum? There's no love like a mum's love. There's no feeling when your mum cuddles you or looks at you like with pride. And I can't now show her what a good mum I'm going to be because he took her away. There's no coming back from that.
It's always there, but you've just got to get up some days and put on your happy head and just get on with it. I've had enough negativity, so let's concentrate on the positives and try and remember the decent times, some of the good stuff.
My mum's dreamt about me getting married from the day and hour I was born, and it was just a really nice day to celebrate. It's memories he can't replace, and it's something that he can't take away. He was there, but he can't take it away. She loved getting glammed up. She was crying when we were doing our vows. She was the one that caught the bouquet. And it's nice to see their memories and see her all done up and happy and genuinely happy. It was my mum. They are going to be the pictures I get out now, definitely. They're just how I want to remember her. The happy times, not the sad times.